The day is August 27th, 2025, and welcome to the 451st episode of the So Video Games podcast. Here on the show, I talk about any game at all, including new stuff, old stuff, and anything in between. My name is Brad Galloway. I'm the one-man host of the show, and I'm also the editor of GameCritics.com, a website that uses the full range of review scores from 0 to 10, all the way to 10, all the way to 0, while also offering full accessibility info on every review that we publish. Hello, how is it going, everybody? I am back a couple days late, but better late than never. Here we are. As usual, I don't have any housekeeping. To be frank with everybody, it's been busy. We got a couple puppies, which I believe I mentioned in the last show. Puppies are keeping us hopping. I had forgotten how much having a puppy is like having an infant. And I think we are a little bit worn out of cleaning up poop and pee. That's been most of our time lately. They're cute as a button. We love them. They're great. It's going to be wonderful once they get potty trained. That'll be a huge load off. But that's been taking up a lot of time. I also homeschool my son. I have a job outside of the podcast and stuff like that. Things are happening. And between you and me, it's kind of a minor miracle that I'm getting this show off the ground this week at all. So let's not dwell on that too much. I don't have any housekeeping to talk about, really. We're going to get into things pretty quickly. And this may be a short episode as I gear up for next week's show, because we have a couple of embargo titles to cover, which I'll get to in a second. But anyway, enough of that preamble. Before we get into the main stuff, I did get a question from Salty in the Discord, which I'm always grateful for. I will mention the Discord in just a second in case you're interested in getting in on that. But Salty, what's up, my friend? Always good to hear from you. He's an active member of the Discord. Always a pleasure to interact, and I love getting questions. Salty says, "Hey, Brad, what genre or type of game do you keep trying to enjoy but cannot find the joy to finish?" This is an easy one for me because I have been in games for a long time, as I'm sure you are too, or have been too. Boy, English is tricky, right? And so I pretty much know what genres I click with and which ones I don't. And there's very few, like right now at this stage in the game, after being in video games for literal decades, there's very few genres that I am like unsure about. But there is one that I think that I still kind of go back and forth on, that I feel like I kind of really want to get into, but I never can. I simply cannot find the joy. And those are RTS, real-time strategy. I look at those all the time. We get solicitations for those all the time from PR. There's all sorts of stuff in that ballpark that I think looks interesting. There's tons of Warhammer 40K RTSs. There's regular basic Warhammer RTSs. You know, there's all sorts of sci-fi theme. There's fantasy theme. There's all sorts of stuff in there in that genre. Pretty large genre, pretty hefty genre, but it's mostly on PC. There's very few times that it gets anything like that gets ported to console, and when it does, pretty rare that the controls come through in a way that's even remotely as effective as using like a mouse and keyboard, right? So I don't like using mouse and keyboard. It's physically uncomfortable for me. I know some people really get down with that, and that's their groove, and that's cool. No shame or no hate whatsoever. Everybody, you guys do what you want to do, and that's cool. But for me, mouse and keyboard have just never clicked. It's just like my hand doesn't like moving that way, and I can never remember the buttons, and this is not for me. Not for me, right? And so I don't usually play PC games either. I don't like to mess around with PC stuff. I know it's much better these days than it used to be back in the old times, in the dark times, but still, I've got some pretty killer like anti-technology aura going on, and if something can go wrong with my PC or a PC game, it will, and I'm just used to that. So PC gaming is not my thing, and so because of that, I never really played them very much growing up. Didn't really play them recently, or even after I got my own computer when I was a big boy and I got a job and I got some checks and had some big boy money. Just never really got into it. Console to the core is me. But I look at them and I feel like there's a lot of stuff in them that I think I would like. I like strategy games. I like turn-based strategy. I like tactics. I like stuff like XCOM. I like, Fire Emblem, things of that nature. I like almost all those. I really get into them. And it seems like RTS should be something that I would like, but it's just not. And I think the big difference for me, outside of the mouse and keyboard difference, is that I don't like time pressure. I really don't like time pressure. That's maybe why I like the turn-based strategy so much, is because you can take as much time as you want. With XCOM, you can agonize over a move for half an hour if you want to, or longer, and nothing moves forward until you make a choice, and then things kick off, and that's fine. But you have made the choice that you wanted to make. With real-time strategy, I feel like there's always a lot to manage. I feel like, especially being so used to console, it's hard for me to get a good sense of what's going on elsewhere that's not on the screen. Like, I can remember trying a few of these before when I really wanted to get into them. And there's like a little map at the bottom, and you'll see something far away that's not on your screen, but you see like a red marker going off, and you're like, oh, someone's fighting my base over there, and I got to scroll the screen over there to see what's going on, and then I got to send troops, and it just feels very chaotic and overwhelming, and I have trouble multitasking in that particular way. I mean, I can multitask other things in real life. I mean, I'm grown up, I've got a job, I got kids and a spouse and dogs and all these things, and I can do lots of things at the same time, and I can get by in real life, but something about RTS is just like really stress me out. Like, I just can't, my guy, he's walking the wrong way, I got to get him back over here, and oh no, someone's attacking my base over here, oh no, and then I forgot about this thing, and I forgot to mine the minerals over here, and now I'm short, oh no, and it just feels like 50 million different things that are pressuring you for time, and everything needs your attention all at once, and you got to scroll around, and there's like, sometimes there's like one unit you got to get back, sometimes there's a whole army of units, and it's just like none of it works for me. Like, it's not enjoyable. I'm trying to think of an RTS, a legit RTS that I ever connected with, and I can't even think of one. I mean, I've played several, didn't like many of them, and there's few that have been kind of like really abbreviated for console. Anything that's been really scaled back, simplified, anything like Pikmin or something. Pikmin, I think, is probably like the ceiling of what my particular brain can handle. I feel like Pikmin is an RTS, but a different kind of one, different structure, different pace. There is a time pressure. Your Pikmin can get killed by guys, and there's pressure there. It's not turn-based. But I think that's about as complex as I can handle. So I see lots of sci-fi and fantasy RTSs that I think would be just like really cool. Great character design, fun ideas, armies going against each other. It seems really fun, but I just cannot play them. I wish I could, and I can't. And basically every time I try to play one, I have a bad time. So I just kind of gave up on them. And, if one comes to console that seems really like a good fit for console, then I'll give it a shot. But otherwise, I think I've basically written the genre off. It's just like, as some people would say, chalk and cheese. It's just not for me. Oil and water, it's just not happening. So, Salty, thank you for the question. I really appreciate it, and hopefully that answer will satisfy your curiosity. But thanks for asking. I do appreciate it. All right, folks, before we get to the main part of the show, just a quick heads up that as a Patreon supporting this show and also GameCritics.com, all the costs of those things are paid out of my pocket directly. And if you love the show or you love the website, if you use the accessibility, if you tune in when you're on the road, if we're there for you whenever you need something to read or to listen to, I would really ask that you chip in and help me keep it all running if you can. If everyone listening or reading would chip in just $1 a month, just one, $1 per month, $12 per year, every expense I have would be covered. And if you can afford it, I would super appreciate it. Also, heads up that we have a YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/@gamecritics.com videos. We just put up a bunch of trailers, mostly trailers that we have hand curated. People on the staff will pick these out as trailers that they think are pretty cool. So it's not just like a blast of stuff. If you see a trailer on that channel, you can be assured that someone at Game Critics of our staff thought this was cool enough and worthy enough to share. So check that out. And I think that's going to be all of the PSAs for right now. I say let's get into the show, shall we? Yes, we shall. All right, as y'all know, I like to start the main portion of the show with circlebacks, where I circle back to things I have covered in depth on previous episodes. Not getting into all the details again right now, but just think of this as a quick update to let you know if my thoughts have changed on something for better or for worse after spending more time with it. Only one circle back today, and that is for Discounty, which I'm still playing on the Switch. It's great. Spoiler, love it. I think it's really super good. It's been quite a while since I played a store management game that I really connected with. This one is just fantastic. I really love the design, the concept, the implementation, like literally everything about it. I think is just really on point. You have to like, the idea of a game where you run a store. So if you don't want to like mess with stocking shelves and working the register, then maybe this is not for you. But, if you are open to it, I think this is like really the best one. I think it's cute. Aesthetics are on point. And I think it's scoped really well. I feel like sometimes these games can really drown in the minutia of like micromanaging prices, going up a price, going up a penny or going down a penny can have this big effect, or like you've got to really like scrutinize everything. But they kind of like get past that because the prices are set automatically. I think the register part where you check out groceries, once you get a couple upgrades, is pretty quick and easy. Stocking shelves, I think, is probably the heaviest load. But since the last time I played, I don't think I mentioned it last time. Maybe I did, but I got an employee finally, and that helps out quite a bit. It's not perfect, but it helps out a lot. Like you've got a surly teenager who shows up and they start like stocking your shelves for you. They kind of drag their feet a little bit as teenagers do, but it definitely helps for sure. And there's like other stuff to do. Like they have little ways of implementing challenges that go along with running a store. For example, one of the challenges I'm working on now is in order to unlock some dialogue from a character that I need to talk to, I need to sell a certain amount of fish sticks. I need to sell more fish sticks than I sell raw fish. And maybe that sounds super arbitrary and weird, but it actually makes sense in the context of the story. I'm not going to get into it now, but it makes perfect sense. I'm happy to do it. I know how to do it, and I will do it the very next time I play. So I appreciate that they like teach the systems really well. They're easy to interface with. UI is great. Everything is simple and straightforward. It's just so well considered and so frictionless in the best possible way. There are challenges, and it is a little bit of a long-term play because sometimes you just have to earn a certain amount of money to progress, or you have to wait for a certain thing to happen. But it just goes along. It moves along. Every day I feel like a little bit happens, and I learn the town a little bit more. The town is not huge, and so you can learn the town pretty well. There's not a crazy amount of people, so you can learn the townsfolk pretty well. And altogether, just everything about it is measured and precise and exactly the right size and exactly the right speed. And everything about it is just really good. I only have like the smallest micro nitpicks about it, and they're not even worth talking about here at this particular point in the show. I'll do a full review once I roll credits, and I will definitely roll credits. I'm really loving this game, playing it every night. But for right now, let me just circle back and say Discounty is the shit. I think it's great. Really fun. Everything about it is perfect. I have like extremely, extremely minor complaints about it. It's just like well considered, well crafted, well polished, well thought out. And it's just so fun and easy to play. I really love it a lot. So I think Discounty, for me, definitely one of the big winners of this year for sure. It's not a AAA blockbuster. It may not have all the bells and whistles. It may not like leap out and grab your attention when you're scanning like the eShop or whatever. But man, this game has definitely got it. These people who made this game, they got it. They understood, they executed correctly, and they had a great vision. So I'm just enjoying the fuck out of it. Discounty, playing it on Switch, it's a great fit for Switch. All right, up next, little game. Well, I guess this is the first game of the new section, or the main section anyway. New indie that is on PC and also on console called Curse Rounds. And was sent a code for this by the publisher, and I believe all of the games I'm about to talk about today, I've been sent a code for. So just full disclosure on that. Curse Rounds is a cute little roguelike. It's very simple and straightforward, small scale project, which I appreciate. Not every game has to have like, multiple layers and huge open world and depth and skill trees and stuff. Sometimes just something very simple and straightforward is fine. This game is basically a 2D roguelike, kind of like a straight on, top down, just flat 2D. Oh, kind of hard to describe, I guess. Where you play like a little guy. And honestly, the aesthetic of this whole thing reminds me a lot of like The Binding of Isaac, or some of those type of games, if you're familiar with that type of, I don't know, like, what do you even call that? Like, it's not stick figures. It's kind of like chunky, blocky figures, pixely. I don't even know how you even describe, like, the Binding of Isaac, whatever that looks like. It's like the kind of block-headed dudes and simple, straightforward, like highly stylized animation. It's all black and white, though. The entire game is black and white, which I think is an interesting choice. So there is a bit of a story, but it's really obliquely told here. I don't quite get exactly what's going on. There's like, I don't know, a little boy in some trouble with some demons. He goes up to like his attic and finds that he's in his room and hears something scary. He goes up to the attic and finds out there's a giant monster with tentacles up there, and he gets grabbed. And then the next thing you know, you're in this like roguelike world. So I'm guessing the final confrontation is going to be, you versus the tentacle monster or something like that. But what happens is you go into the game, and again, very straightforward, very simple. You just run around and shoot, move with the left stick, aim and shoot with the right stick, and then that's really kind of all there is to it at first, but then you sometimes will get power-up drops from enemies, and those are temporary. They'll do something like give you, instead of using your pea shooter, which goes pew, 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 you might get a laser, or maybe you'll get a huge laser, or maybe you'll get double shots, or maybe you'll get a shotgun. Whatever you get is generally better than your pea shooter, so you're running around on this 2D field, shooting enemies that come at you. Everything has this Binding of Isaac kind of like aesthetic, kind of cartoony, a little bit creepy and weird. And you're just shooting stuff and shooting stuff, getting these power-ups, and they're all temporary, unfortunately. I was kind of hoping that you would like building strength and kind of get better as you go, but all the gun power-ups are temporary. And then after you beat a level, you get to choose from a curse. So I guess that's why this is called Curse Rounds. I believe this game is pretty short. I have not gone the full distance yet. I think I've gotten at least, I want to say, I feel like at least 3/4 of the way through it, but did not roll credits and did not seal the deal here. But between rounds, you get 2 choices, and each choice is something bad. So for example, you finish the first round, you make it through. Between rounds, it'll be like choice A, you cannot fire for the first 5 seconds of the next round, or B, whatever enemy you shoot the very first time will be multiplied. And so neither of those is good. I don't want either of those, but you have to choose one. And so you choose whichever one you want. So let's say, for example, I chose the do not fire for 5 seconds. That one was generally, to me, like fairly benign. I found that it was pretty easy to dodge for 5 seconds at the beginning of each level, really before the action picks up. And so it's not too big of a problem. So you start the next round with whatever curse. You run around, shoot the enemies. And there's lots of weird looking enemies. There's like frogs and weird little puffballs and weird squiggly things and worms that come up from the ground. And I mean, it's all very well animated. I think it's very cute looking. I'm not sure that black and white was really the right way to go with this, because sometimes there are objects in the environment which are not enemies. And sometimes when you're in a rush or under pressure, it's kind of hard to tell which things are going to hurt you and which things are not. So maybe adding color for just the enemies, if you want to keep it minimal, would have helped a little bit. Or perhaps some kind of visual effect if people are colorblind. But it's fine. Like, you just run around and basically just shoot anything that shoots at you or shoot anything that moves. You get to the next round, and then you keep your first curse, and you add a second curse. And the second curse, there's a whole wide variety of these. I mean, it could be like the first enemy you get is healed, or the first enemy you hit is healed, or the first enemy you hit in the next round is supercharged. They run around super fast, or, there's all sorts of like really like negative stuff, and they just kind of get worse as you go. And so between each round, you get more and more curses. And eventually the point is you want to have the ability to have maximum amount of curses to make it to the end, but still survive and fight through all this like ever increasing load that you're bearing, and then get to the end. So that's it. After you either die or beat the game, you go back to the start, and then there's not, as far as I know, there's not really anything to unlock. There's no permanent progression, no skill tree. There's no, meta going on where you're trying to like work towards unlocking something or grinding something out. So it's just kind of like, I think ultimately the goal is to just really practice at the game, do the whole thing in one run. And once that's done, come back and do it some more because you like playing the game, which is totally fine. It's totally fine. I think this is a very cute, straightforward, simple thing. I appreciated it for what it was. It's not something that I'm going to be playing for the rest of the year, but I do appreciate a project that is small in scope and shoots for an achievable goal, achieves it, and then just bounces. I think that's respectable. So I had a pretty good time with Curse Rounds. I'm dipping into it like once or twice a day. It's not really something that I would sit down and play for like 4 hours at a stretch, but I'll be like, all right, let's have a run, and I'll do a run. And, I have not beat the game yet, but I'll get further, or I'll practice, or I'll see a new weapon or something I haven't seen before. And then I'll come back to the start. I got to say, it is a little bit of a bummer, perhaps, that there's like nothing to unlock at all. I mean, even something minimal, I think, would have given it just like a tiny bit more legs. Not necessarily criticism. I think just kind of a design observation. But I still had a good time, still having a good time with it. I think it's nice. If you want something that's really light and small, a little bite-sized roguelike that's just kind of fun, nice animation, and you want something you can like pick up and put down pretty easily, I think Curse Rounds really fits the bill. It's a small project too. I believe it's on sale for like a very commensurate price as well. I don't think it's asking top dollar at all. So check it out. I'm playing it on PlayStation, I believe. Runs totally fine. I'm sure it runs fine anywhere. It's a pretty small game. So yeah, thumbs up though. Thumbs up for sure to Curse Rounds. All right, next up is a game called Grit and Valor. Playing this on PlayStation. It's also on PC. I believe it's on everything, I think. This is an isometric roguelike. Yes, I do have a type. You know me, Mr. Roguelike. I like all the roguelikes. Um, this takes place in an alternate history, World War II, I believe. In this one, the Nazis get the upper hand because they have developed mech suits, and so they are stomping all over the Allies. The Allies are taking a beating, but a small group of ragtag soldiers captures a few mechs of their own, and they start pushing back as kind of a resistance force. That is the basic premise. It's pretty simple and straightforward. That's really all you need to know about it. This game is not a narrative experience, and that's totally fine. I don't think it needs to be. Just enough to kick things off and get you rolling. So again, isometric perspective. Each battlefield is kind of like a big square, and you can zoom in, zoom out, and rotate if you wish to kind of get a good look for where things are. You start the game with 3 mech suits, and this game is built on a damage triangle, or like a Jonkenpo or a rock, paper, scissors, where you've got, what is it, like machine gun beats explosions, explosion beats flame, and flame beats machine gun. Maybe I got that wrong, but like you get the idea, right? Like there's 3 types, and each type is weak to one of the other types and strong against another type. So you keep that in mind. You've got 1 mech of each type, and then you also have pilots. These can mix and match, and each pilot can pilot any mech, and they each have 1 special ability. So the first pilot you get can heal himself, or like, more properly, the mech, fix up the mech. The other one can jump and do like a death from above type of move. And the third one can launch mines, I believe. Those kick off on a cooldown, but there's also a certain number of times you can do those. I haven't fully sussed out exactly. It's hard to tell in the heat of battle because I don't think that part is very well laid out, but you have those special abilities at your disposal. So you pick a place to go, you go to fight, and this game uses the very typical Slay the Spire type map, which is really so common to anything in the roguelike genre these days. Slay the Spire really just established the new norm for roguelikes, for better or for worse, and so I think we're still kind of in the wake of that. So you look at a map of Europe. I think ultimately there's 4 separate maps, but you start off in, I don't know, Scotland or something. It doesn't matter. And so you go, and then you start at the top, and there's all these nodes. I think most of the nodes seem pretty similar. A lot of them are just combat. There's not as many story nodes or other type of activity nodes as I might expect, but you'll go into a battle. You'll get to deploy your mechs right off the bat before the battle kicks off. You choose when to start, push the button. Enemies start, and enemies get airlifted in. So they are approaching from all sides, north, south, east, west, and you can rotate the map. You can see where they're coming. A little arrow will pop up to say, hey, there's enemies coming from this side, and they'll kind of tell you what the enemy type is as well. So you can see that like a few seconds before they get there. Oh, fire mechs coming in from the north. Oh, machine gun guy coming in from the south, or whatever, something like that. You'll see them, and then you will click on your mech on the map, and this is on controller, playing on a PlayStation again, and then you will click him once and then direct him to like whatever square you want to go to, and then they'll go there automatically. You don't need to worry about firing. All the firing is handled automatically. So like all you need to do is worry about positioning your mechs, and then once they get to where they're going, they stop, and then they just fire and return fire with the enemy. Enemy will shoot you, and then whoever survives. So ideally you want to be always on the upper part of the superiority triangle, right? Like you always want to be sending the right type of mech that is strong against whatever type of mech you're up against, which is not too hard at first, but then you get mixed crowds, and then sometimes you get like crossfire from other parts of the map. There is a very minor like cover mechanic, which I think is like okay. You can stand behind certain low walls or a barn or something like that, and it'll absorb the gunfire for you, which gives you some protection for a limited amount of time. But it's not super powerful, and sometimes it's really difficult to do. So again, this is a roguelike. As the game progresses, I forgot to mention, you also have your 3 mechs plus a little command car, and you got to protect the command car. So you're moving the command car around the map, and if the command car dies, you lose the mission, or the whole game basically. So you've got to like fight, but also protect your command car. Usually like send them off to a corner or something. Throughout the mission, friendly planes will drop off buffs for you, and those will like usually be, mech A will have 10% better machine guns, or mech B will have 10% better strength on shields, or, something like that, like little incremental buffs. So far, I have not seen anything like hugely amazing. They all feel like incremental increases. Better shielding, better healing, better weapons, more defense, better crits. Pretty straightforward. Nothing that really like changes the flow of battle. Like nothing that like radically alters how you play, which is like, okay. I mean, playing a roguelike, and I've said this many times, what I really like about roguelikes is the moment-to-moment strategy. And I really like when getting one power-up can like radically change the flow of the game. Like getting one power-up that like doubles your bullets, or that bounces bullets, or that lets you triple jump, or makes you invulnerable if you're facing left or something crazy like that. Like any of those things that like alter your play keeps the gameplay feeling fresh. And I think that's really a great thing to aspire for if you're doing a roguelike. We saw that in Hades, where like getting one power up could like completely change the way you played. Same thing with Binding of Isaac. If you get like one power up over another, it can turn you from being super turtly to being super aggro, or vice versa, whatever. This game is not great at doing that, which is like, it's like, okay, I wish there was like some crazier stuff that happened. But that's not really the biggest issue here. I think this is a pretty solid base. I like the visual design. The mechs look pretty cool. I like the concept of like, this alternate World War II history. You're trying to fight back, and fighting Nazis is something we should all be doing right now. So I'm all in favor of that. I like the turn-based, or not, it's not turn-based. The isometric approach I think is great. But the problem... so I had a couple problems with this so far. So number one, my copy on the PlayStation was kind of buggy. I had a couple problems getting through the menus. Sometimes it would lock up my PlayStation, sometimes not. I'm sure they're going to patch that out at some point in the future. But for the time that I spent with it, I was having some issues. So that was kind of annoying. Also, there was a pause function that you're supposed to be able to pause the action. It's not like a press start menu pause. It's supposed to be like freeze the action, so you can just get a good look at the battlefield. That was like disabled in the PlayStation. It was supposed to work, and the developers, I sent an email to the devs and asked what was going on with that, and they said, oh, it's actually a bug because of something. I think it had something to do with like the VR functionality. You can play this game in VR, but I really don't care about that, and I didn't test it. So something about adding VR made that pause function break, and so it was not available in my time on the PlayStation. So that kind of sucked that function just wasn't there. That's a problem, but the biggest problem, I think, is the basic structure of how this game plays, and I haven't mentioned it at all yet, but really this is happening in real time, which I found to be pretty strange. As I've said earlier in the show, I'm really crap at RTSs, and so I don't tend to play them a lot. And when I saw this one, like on the trailer and everything, I didn't really realize that it was basically kind of like a small-scale RTS, which I don't think is inherently a problem, because I do feel like it maps pretty well to controllers and consoles, but it's just so fast and so hectic, and you take so much damage so quickly if you're not watching who's shooting who and who's taking cover where. And there's just like at least three mechs plus your car to manage. That's 4 things you're watching at once. And the maps are not huge, but like that's a lot to juggle, and there's a lot happening. Sometimes a lot of enemies can show up and you get overwhelmed really quickly. So that pause function would be great, and the pause function is not there. Also, something I discovered was that good man Eugene Sachs, one of our core staffers and my personal hero over at Game Critics, who runs our YouTube section and does a lot of the videos, he covered this game for a video review that we did earlier. I believe you can find it on our YouTube channel, and it's also at GameCritics.com. He covered this, and as I was talking to him about it, I was like, yo, Eugene, you got any tips? I think this game is pretty hard. What's going on? And he's like, oh, not really. You just pause and assign actions and unpause. And I'm like, whoa, what? He's like, what? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I mean, I know the pause is broken, but what are you talking about assign actions? He's like, oh yeah, you just like pause the game, and then you can tell your mechs where to go, and then you unpause. I'm like, whoa, that is not in the PlayStation version. I'm like, what the hell? So I emailed PR again, and I'm like, yo, my PC guy, Eugene, said that you can pause this and assign actions. That would like completely change the way that this game is handled. It would give you a minute to breathe. It could give you just a little bit more strategy. You could think about things, not in the heat of the moment. I'm like, that sounds amazing. What's going on? And they're like, yeah, that's in the PC version. They're not really planning to bring it to console. And I'm like, what? Why? Like that? I mean, I don't know what's going on. I don't know why they're not choosing to bring it. I could probably hazard a few guesses. I'm not going to guess. I'm not trying to, play couch dev or backseat dev or anything like that. But I will say, as someone playing this game who is getting frustrated with the hecticness of it and the busyness of it and how hard it is to track this action in the heat of the moment, I would love to be able to pause and assign robots where to go when I've got a freaking minute to breathe. That would like really increase my enjoyment of the game by a factor of like 10. So I'm very disappointed, not only that it wasn't even there at launch, but that it's not even coming, which is just really kind of blowing my mind right now. So I have to say that's a pretty big problem. I think this game is fine enough, but without the ability to, number one, just pause in the middle of battle, and number two, without the ability to assign orders while paused, I think it just changes the way this game plays. And it goes from something that could be strategic and satisfying to just like a hot mess, because you're just clicking and clicking and clicking. The whole thing kicks off too fast and too many things are coming in. And it's just a lot to manage. And then because it's a roguelike, you're going to get killed and go back to the start and have to do it all again, which in general isn't a huge problem. But sometimes it just feels very frustrating and unfair when somebody that you didn't see come in is shooting you from the back, or you were focused on one part of the map and you didn't see this other guy come in. It just doesn't feel good to lose because of that. If I'm losing because I made a bad call, because I spec'd out my mechs wrong, because I just wasn't on my game, that's one thing. But to have the whole game running, and, you know, the AI in the game doesn't have that penalty. They can handle 10,000 things at once and they don't sweat it because they're a computer. But us lowly humans, you know, we can't focus on that many things at the same time. So I feel like it's very hard to manage, which is a shame, because I really would love to play this game with the ability to be just a bit more strategic and have that little bit of a layer where you can pause and assign. I think that is really kind of breaking me on this. I'm really jealous that Eugene got to play a better version of this game than I did, and I really don't understand why they're not going to bring it. It seems to kind of like kneecap the game. I think it's going to really limit its appeal and limit its playability. So that's very disappointing. Otherwise, there is a meta. You go back to base between rounds. You can increase pilot stats, increase mech stats, make some weaponry. It's all pretty well done. I mean, I think this is a pretty good game in general. It starts in a really good place. I think a lot of the decisions here are good, except for just that raw playability. And I guess maybe it's fine if you're an RTS player, but if you're not, like me, you're more used to like XCOM turn-based stuff, it's really tough to play. And so I don't get very far. I'm upgrading my mechs and that helps, but like I'm getting kind of discouraged and kind of frustrated because, you know, like I said, the gameplay doesn't vary that much. And so I'm hoping to kind of power through the game or just see more of it. And without the ability to play at a deeper level, I'm probably not going to finish this. I feel like I'm kind of bouncing from it, which is a bummer because I was really looking forward to it. I mean, World War II, alternate history, mech suits. I mean, this is all my jam. I love all that stuff. But I just don't like this kind of like final iteration on PlayStation. It's not quite working for me. So, man, kind of a bummer. I'm kind of bummed. I really, really wanted to dig into this one, and on so many levels it checks boxes. But I have to say, without the pause functionality and without the ability to assign orders, I think that the devs are doing themselves a disservice, and they are doing their game a disservice. So I would strongly, strongly suggest and recommend and beg and plead, please put that function in. I would be happy to come back to this game and probably would finish it, to be perfectly honest with you, if I could play it like slightly differently. I think more options are better. But in the current state, I don't think it's really in the place it should be, which is really kind of breaking my heart a little bit. So that is Grit and Valor. There you go. Up next here is this seat taken? This was shown at the recent Nintendo Indie Showcase thingamabob that was just a couple weeks ago. And it caught my attention like almost immediately. It is a 2D kind of visually abstracted, reductive, not in a bad way, just that there's minimal details, puzzle game where you have a number of people which are represented by various shapes: circles with faces, diamonds with faces, squares with faces, and they have like very few defining features. Like they might have a curlicue of hair, they might have an earring or something like that. And you're in various places that have seats. And so you need to seat all of the people according to their personal requirements. It starts out pretty easy, but then it ramps up in difficulty, but in a good way. So, for example, one of the levels, in fact, the level I just finished, have not finished the whole game, but I'm playing it right now. One was a bus. And so you get to the bus stop, and there's a bunch of people waiting outside the bus, and you get to place them. You click them with the cursor using the controller and playing on Switch. And then you can pick them up and put them in whatever seat you want. But each person has requirements. Like some people have not showered. That seems to be like a common theme in this game. I don't know what's up with that. But like a lot of the people have not showered. And so they have little clouds of stink around them. And they're like, number one, I have not showered. And number two, I want to sit by the window. And so you pick that person up and put them by the window. No big deal. And then they smile when you've done the thing that they want. The next person is like, oh, I like loud music and I don't want to talk to anybody. So then you look for an empty seat. that's not next to anybody that's not going to be bothered, and then you put that person down and then they smile. But if you end up putting them in a wrong place, like maybe some people are like, I don't like bad smells, which means don't ever put me next to somebody who hasn't showered. And if you put those two people together, the person who does not like bad smells will frown and they'll be like unhappy. And so you have to kind of like rotate things around. It's pretty simple and straightforward, and yet it's quite charming. I think the graphics are perfect. I like that it is abstracted the way that it is. I think anything more complicated would just detract from the experience, because it's not about really the graphics. It's about the mental challenge. And this is not tricky in any way. Like, it's all very straightforward. It plays its cards, face up for you. And it's all about logic. It's just about logic. And I don't know if this is not a spoiler or anything, but like for me, when I'm approaching these, I figure out, like, if I find the guy or girl or triangle or square or whatever who has the most complaints, the most difficult one to place, I try to place that person first. And then it seems like all the other people kind of fall in line around it. But there's nothing hidden. There's no secrets. There's no trick to it. It's just about, can you logically work through all of the requests to make sure that no one's request is impinging on someone else's request, and can you utilize the available seating? Like in the bus, there's like maybe 4 2-seaters, and then there's a space for 2 people to stand up, and then there's maybe like 3 more 2-seater sections, something like that. Or like there's one part where you're in a taxi, but it was like a limo taxi, and there's a little bit of funny dialogue here and there, not very much, which is great. I don't want a bunch of dialogue. Again, it would clutter the experience, but like each level has like maybe 3 or 4 lines just to kick it off. And in the taxi level, when all of the people crowd into the car, the guy driving's like, hey, this isn't a taxi, but I guess I'll drive you anyway. And so it just kind of gives you like a funny excuse as to why the taxi is large enough to fit like 8 or 10 people, So that's basically the gist of it. I mean, there's not a lot to it, but that's not a bad thing. That's not a slam in any way. I think it's lovely. I think it's very elegant. I think it's very clever and cute and adorable and charming and straightforward. And it's really pleasant to play. There's no time limit. There's no rush. There's no real fail state. I believe I have solved every puzzle completely up until this point. That may not be true from this point forward as it gets harder. But up until this point, I've done everything perfectly because I've taken my time. But I believe if you get frustrated or tired or just can't figure out who needs to sit next to who, I do believe you can just finish the level. You might not get a perfect score, but I'm pretty sure the game lets you move on. I will probably check that as I get further in. But I like it a lot. I think it's really cute and just fun. And I just really admire something that is just small and discreet and well polished and well thought through and kind of funny and kind of charming. It's just this like little delicious tidbit morsel of a game that I think should not be any larger than it is. It is exactly the right size for what it needs to be and what it needs to do. It is clear. It is just easy to interact with. It's just delightful. Everything about it is just delightful. I think Is This Seat Taken is a real charmer. And if you have the itch to sit people next to each other, which is actually surprisingly a lot more fun than it sounds, this one definitely gets a huge thumbs up for me. I think it's a lot of fun if you're in the mood for a chill puzzle game. Good stuff. Last game of the show is Herdling. This one comes from Okamotive, I guess. The People indie team who have cranked out one absolute banger and one game which I believe to be a banger, although the jury's out on that one. These are the people who made Far Lone Sails, which is like, oh man, one of my most favorite experiences, whether AAA, AA, indie, or whatever, like just as a game, one of my all-time favorite experiences. Really top-class stuff. The first game, Far, was about a boy who needed to go on a journey. I'm going to be kind of oblique about the details. Needed to go on a journey, and the only vehicle he has requires 2 people, but there is no other person. So he must do all of the work himself, or herself, I guess, themself. And so you end up running around doing the work of 2 people, like something over here needs tending. And then once that's done, you got to run back to the back of the craft and tend something over there and do this other thing. There's always like something happening that you got to tend to, and you're trying to keep the vehicle in motion as you're crossing this like large area to get to where you're going. Oh my goodness. I love Far Lone Sails. Hugely emotive and impactful, kind of touching, great ending. Oh man, great stuff. If you have not played Far Lone Sails, please pause the podcast, go buy it on any platform you prefer. Literally, go play it now. It'll take you a couple hours and then come back. Top recommendation for Far Lone Sales. Because Lone Sales was so amazing, I guess it sounds weird to say, but like I was like so spiritually satisfied by it. I never really felt the need to like play the sequel, which was Far Changing Tides. I believe basically the same gist in that game, except for rather than a land vehicle, there's an ocean vehicle. But I think it probably hits a lot of the same notes, more or less. I never tried it. But so put a pin in that for a second. So I skipped over Changing Tides just because the first experience was just so incredible. A couple years go by, and Okamotive have come up with a brand new game called Herdling. And so I was very excited. I'm like, okay, Far was like amazing. I definitely want to check out what they're doing now. It looks pretty different from the first game, so I'm curious. In this game, well, both of the Far titles, both Lone Sails and Changing Tides, were both 2D side view type games. And in this game, Herdling, it's more of a third person. I hesitate to say open world, but just kind of like large areas that you can run around in. And you play a street kid or something. The game starts in an urban kind of gross decayed setting, and I guess you just come across these animals. I forget what they're called. They're called like alicorns or something like that. Corn is part of it. Palicorn, alicorn, something like that. I forget. But you meet these alicorns in a dirty ass alley, and I'm like, what is I mean, and the first one you meet is huge. It's like, I mean, imagine being in a street in whatever town you live in. I live in Seattle, so like, I can't imagine walking down the street in Seattle, looking down an alley, and there's like a freaking like muskox or something. I would be like, what is happening? What is this animal doing here? That's kind of what it's like. It's a really strange opening, and I gotta be honest with you, I don't think it works. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It gets things off on a really weird foot. Reminded me a little bit of like Papo and Yo, if you've ever played that one. If you haven't, go play that one. That's a phenomenal game. But you just wake up on this mat under a bridge, and then you hear something and you go find it, and it's like this giant freaking animal, which seems like a cross between, I don't know, like a Muppet, because it's got this weird floppy fabricy body with like no clearly defined feet or features other than eyes and horns. And it's got these horns, and it's furry, and it's like a big blob. I mean, it's kind of cute, but it's also kind of like weird, slightly off-putting. So you meet this animal in a back alley, and then you just instinctually start to herd it. And I'm like, what? I mean, again, if I saw a muskox in the alleys of Seattle, I don't think my first inclination would be to grab a stick and drive it towards the mountains. I'm like, it's weird. It's weird, man. It just feels kind of like really off-putting and strange. So that was a strange start. You find a couple more of these beasts in short order. I think you leave the city eventually with like, I think 2 or 3. The first one is the biggest one I came across. And full disclosure, I did not finish the game. So I don't know. I'm not sure how far I got. Halfway, maybe, possibly. So you leave the city with like the biggest one. You find a smally one, and get another like medium one or something. You can name them as you go, and then you just like inexplicably start to drive them towards, I don't know, the mountains or something. I guess I'm not sure. It's just weird. It just feels weird. The whole thing feels weird. And so along the way, you'll find some, I don't know, like hieroglyphics or something. That part to me felt like it was recalling Journey a little bit. And in fact, a lot of parts of this game do recall Journey, but not really favorably. Journey is a pretty singular landmark achievement. And so anybody trying to like bite that steez has a lot of biting to do. And I'm not sure that Okamotive really gets there. I'm not sure that it compares favorably. I'll just say that. Once you get out of the city, it's just kind of like you're just kind of wandering. I mean, you're kind of generally led in a certain direction, but there's just like a big area. A lot of the game is just like running with the beasts, and honestly, it's just really boring. Like, there's not really a lot going on. The controls are weird, and it never felt good to me. You stand behind the beasts, and you've got like a stick or a staff or a rod or something, and when you're holding the controller, there's like an invisible line that you can, well, okay, it's not invisible. It's like invisible to the animals, but you, the player, can see it. It's not something that exists in the game world. It's just like UI for the player. So there's this line, and so you have to like be behind it, and you're kind of controlling it opposite. So for example, if you're behind the alicorns or whatever they're called, and you want to drive them left, you have to go to their right rear, and then make a sound and shake your stick, and then they go the opposite direction of you, so they go left. And if you want them to go right, then you go on their left. It feels a little bit backwards, and that's not really the issue. I mean, that kind of makes sense because I know that's how animals are herded in real life, you know, sheep or elk or whatever, reindeer or whatever it is you're herding that day. Cows, lots of cows. But it just doesn't feel great. There's a couple of different, there's like you click it a couple times to make them quote unquote stampede, which just means they just run faster. You can click it a couple times to make them trample through some underbrush, which is just like no big deal. And then they can like walk in general. It just doesn't feel great. It's not good feeling locomotion. So that was kind of weird and clunky. You do a lot of running, which I think is kind of boring. It doesn't really feel purposeful or like you're really doing a lot. Like as a way of comparison, in the first FAR game, Lone Sails, you're struggling with your machine. You're trying to keep the furnace going. You got sails on top of your land ship. You're kind of like unfurling the sails. You're kind of like getting the wheels moving. You're doing all sorts of stuff, but every once in a while, everything comes together. Like you might get a good tailwind and it pushes you forward, and then you can just relax for a second. And when your ship is caught the wind and the sail is down and you're rocketing forward, those are like amazing moments where it feels like, oh, finally, like I can just take a breath. The scenery is just like shooting by. I can stand here for a minute, just like take in the moment and just feel everything. And it's just like, that was like amazing, like great moment. I think they feel like they're trying to go for that again here, but it doesn't work for me. Like running kind of haphazardly through a field or a forest with these animals kind of clomping around, it just doesn't feel the same. Like you run and I'm like, okay, but like where am I going and really what's going on? And I just don't feel very connected to what's happening. I think the graphics are pretty rough. I see people saying that they think this game looks beautiful, and I find that really strange because I think it does not look good at all. I think it looks really rough and unpolished and unfinished. I don't care for the aesthetics, and it does not look good to me. Don't think it controls good. The music that I've heard so far has been pretty unmemorable. It's not really standing out to me at all. So I just not really connecting with it. At some point you do some basic puzzles when you're not running. You herd the animals maybe to like a door or a gate. They can help you push things, and you can go around sometimes because you're a human person. You can jump up on things and like maybe get behind a block or a gate or something like that, open it. I mean, the puzzles are pretty straightforward and pretty, no big deal. So it just doesn't feel like there's a lot here. I'm not really liking the controls. I'm not liking the graphics very much. It doesn't feel very emotive to me. Just everything, like the game did not get off on the right foot. And I feel like just running with your animals through the woods is just kind of dull. It's just really dull. I think it's a whiff. It's a whiff for me. It's strange because I definitely can sense that Okamotive is trying to go to the well a third time, the same well that they have done with their previous two games, but it's just not happening. I think they need to break out of the mold and do something completely different. And I realize that like there are animals instead of ships, and it's 3D instead of 2D, but in some ways it feels like they're just kind of cribbing from themselves, but they've already done it two times before. The first game, incredible. And the second game, well, let me talk about that now, because I was so dissatisfied with Herdling, I just bounced. I got through halfway or whatever it was, and I'm like, this is just really dull and clunky, and I just don't like it, and I'm just not going to play it anymore. So I stopped. I just think it's really boring. I think it's a miss for this developer. Doesn't mean they're a bad developer. I really look forward to what they do next. I'm still pulling for them, but this one was just off, man. But I was so dissatisfied with Herdling. I'm like, you know what? This is a perfect time for me to go play Changing Tides, because I never played that one, and I was in the mood for that thing that Okamotive does, but it's not in Herdling. So I went back and bought Changing Tides. I bought it on sale on Xbox. I think it was like $8 or something very reasonable like that. Downloaded it, and I got into it, and like immediately, world of difference. Graphics are better and sharper, more defined, more personality. Controls are better. It's immediately clear like what you're supposed to be doing. It starts off more sensibly, and in that game you've got a ship instead of a land ship, but again like a ship on the water that you're doing stuff with, and so that makes sense, and so you're kind of just getting into it. I mean, right off the bat, I was like, okay, yes, I'm in, I get it, this feels good, I understand what's happening, this feels like I want to see where it's going, and I'm very curious. So I played a couple 3 levels of Changing Tides, and I like it. I think it's great. I would highly recommend FAR Lone Sails, and based on the couple 3 levels that I played, I would also recommend Changing Tides, no problem. But Herdling to me feels like just a miss. It just does not click, it does not pop, it does not work. Feels like it needs more time in the oven, and I'm not sure that they have solved for as much I don't know, substance as it needs. It feels like it's just not. I feel like it's a game jam game that didn't quite get there. It's a good start, but like it needs like 6 more months and like maybe like one more big idea, and then it'll kind of come together. But it just did not happen. So I'm very disappointed to report that. But Herdling was a miss, big miss for me. But also, I'm happy that it reminded me about Lone Sails, which is amazing, and I'm happy it got me to play Changing Tides, which is so far amazing. So check those out instead of Herdling, and there you go. All right, folks, game portion of this show is officially done, but like many folks, I do spend a few minutes per week in front of screens that don't have menus or life bars. That's right, it is time for the TV and movie roundup. Gotta keep it real, have not had a lot of time for TV or movies. Been pretty busy with a lot of stuff, but we did sneak in a couple things here and there. The wife and I started watching Revival. I forget where I'm watching it. Hulu, Peacock, something like that. Paramount. I don't remember where we're on. Amazon. I don't remember where it is. But it's a limited series. I think it's 10 episodes. It is made in production with Sci-Fi, or perhaps even specifically Sci-Fi Canada. It stars Melanie Scrofano, who is the star of Wynonna Earp. Love Wynonna Earp. That was a really weird, janky show, but man, the characters and personality really made it a lot of fun. Me and the wife watched that all the way through. Great stuff. And so we wanted to see what she was up to here. We were expecting more of her kind of trademark, like kind of over it, disillusioned, still funny, but also kind of snarky, kind of vibe that she's got going on just naturally. We think she's a lot of fun. This show is not at all what we thought it was going to be. We thought it was going to be more of a comedy because that's where we've seen her before. I think everything we've seen Melanie in before has been kind of like funny, loosey-goosey, laughy, if you will. And it starts out like that, but it gets serious pretty quickly. The premise of this show, and apparently it's based on a comic book, I think, is that in this town in the Midwest, I want to say it's Wisconsin, USA, something like that, people rise from the dead. But it's not everybody, and they're not zombies. Like, they come back as themselves. They come back as people. They don't kill anybody. They're not thirsty for blood or brains. They are just, I was dead, and now I'm alive. And that's it. I'm back. And it's not everybody. It was only like a specific set of dates. It was like if somebody who died between, I don't know, like March 1st and March 15th of whatever year, anybody who died in this one town, not all over the world, just this one town, and during that little window, like they came back to life. And so in the show, I think like 84 people or something like that come back to life. So it's not like an infestation of zombies. And they come back and they're confused. They're like, where was I? What happened? Why am I here? I don't remember anything. What's going on? And so they're just like people. They get called revivers, and the government of this small Wisconsin town has no idea what to do with them. They're not sure if they should be offering help. Should they put them in prison? It quickly raises questions about how you treat people who you see as other, really relevant to our times right now. And then on addition, there's also a bit of a murder mystery, because it turns out that there are certain people who revive, but nobody knew they were dead. So they were either killed or murdered in secret, and nobody knew about it. So when they come back, they're like, hey, what's up? And they're like, yeah, I used to be dead and now I'm not. And everybody's like, oh shit, wait, what? How did you die? We didn't even know you were dead. So there's a bit of a mystery about who's doing these like secret killings that nobody knew about, which adds a nicely complicating layer. It starts out pretty light and it gets heavier as it goes. And we're, I think, only one episode in, and it gets a lot heavier. I'm not going to call it like really a horror series, because I don't think it is, but there are horror elements. I think there's sci-fi elements. I think there are family elements. There's comedy elements. It's a really kind of like hodgepodge of many different things, but I think it all works really well. And I think that Melanie Scrofano does a great job in this. She really stretches herself a little bit, and she's really likable to begin with, but I think she really shows some depth and some range that she has not shown before, which is great. So I'm happy for her. Just a good series overall. Really digging that a lot. The only other thing I've watched in the last week or so is just more of Murdoch Mysteries. It's my wife and I's kind of morning show that we watch when we're having coffee. We are almost caught up. We started off season 1, episode 1, and there are 18 seasons, and each season has, I think, like 25 episodes, 24, 25. So we've been watching it pretty regularly, and we are now on the 18th episode, or I'm sorry, the 18th season. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we're getting close to the end. I'm freaking out, because then we got to wait in real time for more episodes, which sucks. It's been so nice having such a huge amount of episodes to dip into. Not going to spoil anything, but something pretty huge happens at the end of season 17. Like a really big thing happens, and we weren't expecting it. we were not spoiled. We did not look ahead, and so we were totally caught by surprise by that. Big change for season 18, but we are still on board. Really like the show a lot. If you're looking for something cozy and funny with a cute cast of characters in turn of the century Toronto, definitely gets my highest possible recommendation. We are for sure Murdoch fans to the core. It's a great show. So we're just watching season 18 and seeing where it goes. And looking forward to season 19, which I believe is filming right now. So at least we've got that to look forward to. All right, folks, that is a show. Before the closing music, I would love for y'all to leave reviews, share the show on social media, but most important of all, please recommend the show to your friends, because nothing beats word of mouth. Also, would love to get your questions and comments. Hit me up at sovideogamespodcast@gmail.com or hit me up on social media. You can find me on Instagram and Blue Sky. It's my name, BradGallaway, all A's, no O's. You can also hit me in the Videogames Discord, which is totally free of charge to join. Just drop me a line through any of the channels I just mentioned, any one of those, and I will get you on board to continue the conversation. Finally, if you would like to help support this show or GameCritics.com with the help of running, you can do that over at patreon.com/the Video Games Podcast. Every single dollar helps, and €1 helps that much more. All right, folks, that's going to do it for episode 451. Thank you again for joining me here. And actually, hang on a second. I am a little bit cattywampus with the release schedule right now, as I'm sure you are well aware. So I think in order to get back on track, there may be a slightly larger window between episodes. As I'm recording this, this episode has taken me, I think, 2 days to put together. It is now Thursday. I will not have enough material ready for this Sunday, so I may extend it a little bit. You might have to wait until next Sunday, give or take. So just heads up that there may be a little time between. I got myself all kind of cocked up between missing the earlier deadlines and not having enough time to play something new for the show. So this one now, and then look for the next one week and a half-ish, give or take. Maybe an extra, something like that, but a little bit longer. So just heads up. Show's not going anywhere. Everything's fine. I'm just off schedule, and I just need a breather. So I think a couple more days will let me reset, and my fingers are crossed because I am talking to Carlos to see if he wants to join me for the next episode. Not confirmed, but it seems likely that he will probably join for the next episode. So we will see. So anyway, heads up to that. And if you are still listening after all this time, you are a true super fan, one of my nearest and dearest, one of my heroes. Thank you very much for listening. I appreciate you very much. So once again, this is episode 451. Thank you for joining me. Thanks for listening all this time. Thanks for listening to my babbling and my running on. This is the Video Games Podcast, and I'll see you next week-ish. Sort of. Give or take, roughly. Kinda. Bye-bye.